Most people spend their lives chasing comfort, soft beds, full tables, praise from others, the feeling of safety that comes from wealth and possessions. Yet the world has never promised to protect any of these things. Fortune is not loyal. What is owned today can be lost tomorrow. Money, status, admiration, even health. And when a person has never trained their mind to live without these things, loss does not just take their possessions, it breaks their spirit. This is why one must practice poverty. Practicing poverty does not mean living in misery or abandoning all possessions. It means choosing for a time to live with less than one has, not out of necessity, but out of strength. To sleep on a hard surface instead of a comfortable bed. To eat simple bread instead of rich food. To wear plain clothing instead of garments meant to impress. These are not acts of suffering, but of preparation. For when a person willingly steps away from luxury, fear begins to lose its power. The fear of losing comfort, of losing wealth, of losing the life one has built, begins to fade. Because the mind discovers a simple truth. Survival and peace do not come from luxury. They come from discipline and self-command. Many believe that poverty is the worst thing that could happen to them, but often it is the fear of poverty, not poverty itself, that torments the mind. Practicing poverty is the antidote to this fear. When a person has lived with little and remained unbroken, what is left to be afraid of? If everything were taken away tomorrow, possessions, reputation, admiration, could calmness remain? Could dignity remain? If not, then these things were not just owned, they were dependencies. To practice poverty is to break this dependency before life does it by force. Wealth may come and go. Praise may rise and disappear. But the person who can remain steady in both abundance and scarcity has achieved a greater form of wealth, freedom from fear. This is why poverty must not only be endured when it arrives, it must be rehearsed before it arrives. If a person wishes to understand why practicing poverty is necessary, they must first understand this. Comfort is not harmless. It appears gentle, rewarding, well-deserved, but slowly, quietly, it weakens the soul. Comfort by itself is not an enemy. The danger lies in the belief that life without comfort is unbearable. When someone convinces themselves that a soft bed is essential, that rich food is necessary, that praise is owed to them, they begin to fear anything that takes those things away. And wherever fear rules, freedom disappears. The mind that depends on comfort becomes fragile. A slight inconvenience destroys its peace. Hunger becomes unbearable. Silence becomes disturbing. Loneliness becomes terrifying. Discomfort, which once shaped strong human beings for centuries, is now seen as an injustice. This is why practicing poverty is essential. It teaches the body and mind to endure what comfort hides. It reminds a person that survival does not come from silk, gold, or approval, but from strength of character. Hardship that is chosen becomes strength. Hardship that is avoided becomes fear. Think of this truth. Soldiers train in the rain, not under clear skies. They practice hunger so that hunger does not frighten them in war. In the same way, one must allow the soul to meet discomfort now and then. Not because life is cruel, but because life is unpredictable. The Stoics did not reject comfort. They simply refused to belong to it. They enjoyed what they had without depending on it to live well. They slept in beds, but could sleep on the ground. They drank wine, but were content with water. They received praise but were not wounded by silence. The purpose of practicing poverty is not punishment. It is protection. Protection against becoming a slave to pleasure. Protection against collapse when fortune changes. A person who is at peace with simplicity holds a kind of power that cannot be taken away. This is why one must not wait until life forces hardship upon them. One must meet it voluntarily, on their own terms. Those who are prepared for poverty cannot be conquered by it. To understand why poverty must be practiced, one must first understand what truly belongs to a person. Not in the eyes of society, nor by the laws of property, but in the deeper judgment of reason and nature. Very little is truly yours. Wealth does not belong to you. Fortune gives it and fortune takes it. Health does not belong to you. It can be lost in a single breath. Reputation does not belong to you. Others shape it, twist it, forget it. Even the body does not fully belong to you. It ages, weakens, and one day returns to the earth. What then remains? Only this: the power to choose one's thoughts, actions, and responses. This alone is truly yours. Everything else is borrowed, temporary, fragile, passing through your hands like water. This is the foundation of Stoic teaching. If peace is built upon anything that can be taken away, then peace is an illusion. If dignity depends on wealth, if happiness depends on praise, if calmness depends on comfort, then the soul has mistaken chains for gifts. This is why practicing poverty is necessary. It is a reminder, a deliberate return to the truth that life is not owned, but experienced. By choosing moments of simplicity, by stepping away from luxury, a person trains the mind to stand only on what cannot be removed. Practicing poverty says, let the world take what it can, possessions, titles, gold, and still it cannot touch the ruling part of the mind. A person who accepts this truth becomes unshakable, not because they own much, but because they are owned by nothing. To practice poverty is to realign with reality, to understand that nothing external defines a human being. Wealth may decorate life, but it does not strengthen the soul. Poverty may strip life bare, but it cannot touch character unless the person allows it. So if one seeks freedom, let them begin here. To depend only on what cannot be taken, to trust only what lies within moral choice, to live as if everything except virtue is already gone. Then poverty loses its sting. Then wealth loses its temptation. Then life, whether full or empty, remains enough. Practicing poverty is not about misery, nor is it a rejection of all comfort. It is a deliberate and disciplined exercise, a way to strengthen the soul before life tests it without warning. To practice poverty is to live for a brief time with less than one has, not because fortune has demanded it, but because wisdom has advised it. It means choosing simplicity even when luxury is available, so that luxury never becomes a necessity. It may look like this: eating plain bread instead of rich meals, sleeping on a harder surface rather than a soft one, wearing modest clothing instead of garments designed to impress, spending a day or a week with only what is essential: food, water, shelter, thought. These choices are not acts of suffering, they are acts of preparation. Just as soldiers rehearse battle before war, the soul must rehearse hardship before life delivers it. This practice teaches three essential truths. First, that survival requires less than the mind imagines. The body does not collapse because comfort is absent. It collapses because the mind believes comfort is required to live. Second, that fear decreases when one has already met the thing feared. A person who has eaten humble food and slept on bare ground no longer trembles at the thought of losing their riches. Poverty cannot conquer one who has already walked its roads willingly. Third, that happiness is not tied to possessions but to self-mastery. A bowl of lentils may satisfy more deeply than a banquet when the mind is free from craving. The person who enjoys luxury without depending on it is richer than the one who owns much but fears its loss. Practicing poverty is therefore a form of freedom, a reminder that a human being can endure scarcity, discomfort, silence, and still remain whole. It sharpens gratitude. It kills entitlement. It separates need from desire. Some will say, why should one live like this when life offers comfort? The answer is simple, because comfort does not last. Fortune turns without warning, and the person who has only known ease will break the moment life becomes hard. So practice now, while it is still a choice, so that when it is no longer a choice, it is already familiar. For the goal is not to despise wealth or comfort, but to stand above them, to use them without being used by them, to own them without being owned. To live with less, even for a short time, teaches the mind truths that comfort will never reveal. The purpose of practicing poverty is not to suffer, but to understand. And what is understood in simplicity cannot be learned in luxury. It teaches that most fears are illusions. People fear hunger, cold, rejection, failure, not because these things destroy them, but because they have never stood before them with courage. The mind exaggerates what it has never faced. But when one chooses to live with less, fear loses its voice. The unknown becomes known. What was once terrifying becomes manageable. It teaches that strength does not come from abundance, but from discipline. A full table does not make a strong person. A soft bed does not make a peaceful mind. Strength is not found in the possession of comfort, but in the ability to remain steady without it. Practicing poverty trains the will to rule over desire, rather than serving it. It teaches the difference between needs and cravings. The body needs little: food, water, warmth, rest. Everything beyond this is comfort, not necessity. When a person limits themselves willingly, they discover how much they have always had. Cravings fall silent, and gratitude takes their place. A simple meal becomes enough. A quiet room becomes a blessing. It teaches freedom from fortune. Wealth and comfort are not guaranteed. A single turn of fate can take them. But if someone has trained to live without them, fate holds no threat. Poverty cannot enslave the one who has already learned to walk through it with calm and dignity. This is what it means to be truly rich, not to possess much, but to depend on little. It teaches the soul to become unbreakable, not hardened, not bitter, but steady. A mind that has faced discomfort willingly does not collapse when discomfort arrives unexpectedly. It meets loss with the same calm with which it once met abundance. To practice poverty is therefore not self-denial, it is self-discovery. It is to see clearly what is essential and what is merely decoration. It is to stand in truth without leaning on illusions. In this way, practicing poverty is not the abandonment of life. It is preparation for it. Not all poverty is the same. One destroys the spirit when it arrives unprepared. The other strengthens the spirit when it is chosen with wisdom. To understand why practicing poverty is necessary, one must learn to distinguish between the two. Forced poverty is the kind that life imposes without choice. It comes with hunger, humiliation, cold, and despair. It can break a person's confidence and dignity when their mind has never been taught to endure it. Practiced poverty, however, is willingly embraced and purposefully experienced. It is temporary, intentional, and guided by reason. It does not seek misery, but seeks mastery over fear, desire, and dependence. Forced poverty can wound because the mind is untrained. Practiced poverty prepares the mind so that when true hardship arrives, it does not come as a stranger. Here is their difference. Forced poverty strips a way out of cruelty. Practiced poverty removes gently out of wisdom. Forced poverty can leave the heart bitter. Practiced poverty leaves the soul calm. Forced poverty says, you have nothing left. Practiced poverty says, you need nothing to remain yourself. Forced poverty is survival. Practiced poverty is discipline. This is why the philosopher or the ruler or the laborer, no matter their place, must train for both fortune and loss. Because loss comes to all. Death, sickness, betrayal, change. None can be avoided by wealth or rank. Those who have practiced living with little do not collapse when life takes much. They have already rehearsed the part. They have already stripped the soul down to what is unbreakable: reason, character, and inner peace. Practicing poverty is not disrespect toward those who suffer real deprivation. Instead, it is a way to grow in compassion. Only the one who has tasted simplicity understands the dignity required to endure it. Only the one who has walked with less can truly honor those who have no choice. So let it be understood, practiced poverty is not rejection of comfort. It is protection against dependence. It is not a worship of suffering. It is preparation for uncertainty. It is not about losing everything. It is about discovering that without everything, a person can still endure and even remain noble. Most people are not ruled by kings or laws. They are ruled by fear. Not fear of death or war, but something quieter. Fear of losing comfort. Fear of poverty, fear of being ordinary, unnoticed, forgotten. Fear of living without the things they believe they cannot live without. This fear is powerful because it is hidden inside everything people chase: wealth, status, reputation, luxury. They do not desire money alone. They desire the feeling of safety that money promises. They do not seek admiration alone. They seek protection from the pain of being ignored. But fear is a poor foundation for a life. A person who is terrified of losing what they own has already lost peace. Even while surrounded by luxury, such a person lives in quiet panic, protecting, guarding, clinging. They do not truly possess their wealth possesses them. This is why one must practice poverty. For when someone willingly lives for a time with less than they have, fear begins to fade. What was once terrifying, the simple bed, the silent room, the plain meal, loses its power. The mind realizes, so, this is what I was afraid of? And yet I remain alive, undiminished. The one who has never experienced discomfort trembles at its possibility. The one who has practiced it stands calm, because the unknown has become familiar. Practicing poverty is the antidote to fear. It shows that happiness does not crumble when luxury is absent. It proves that character does not disappear when wealth is gone. It teaches the soul that life is not measured by what is owned, but by how well one can endure loss. A person who is content with little cannot be manipulated by desire, cannot be threatened by deprivation, and cannot be broken by misfortune. This is why the wise seek not to escape poverty, but to understand it, so that it can no longer hold power over them. Practicing poverty is not a thought, but a discipline. It is not understood by reading, but by doing. The mind learns through experience, just as the body strengthens through resistance. To free oneself from the fear of losing comfort, one must prove, through deliberate action, that comfort is not required to live well. This practice does not demand extremity. It asks only for honesty and courage. Begin with the body. Choose days when sleep is taken on a firm surface rather than a soft bed. Let the body feel the cold of morning air without rushing to warmth. Eat humble meals, plain bread, simple grains, water instead of wine. Walk rather than be carried. Wear modest clothing, not to display poverty, but to feel freedom from the need to appear wealthy. These acts are not suffering, they are reminders. The body needs little, and the soul needs even less. Train the mind as well. Set aside moments without distraction. No music, no celebration, no constant conversation. Sit in quiet, without reaching for a screen, a voice, or an escape. Let the mind speak, and listen without fear. If thoughts become restless, remain still. The mind must learn that peace is not found in noise, but in self-control. Practice being unseen. Do good without witness. Allow others to ignore, misunderstand, or dismiss you, and remain undisturbed. A person who only acts when praised is not free. The soul must learn to stand upright without applause. Practice restraint. Avoid unnecessary spending, not out of greed, but out of discipline. Live for a time without buying comfort, entertainment, or luxury. Discover how little is truly necessary. Notice how desire fades when it is not constantly fed. Reflect each night. Ask, what did I fear today? And why? Did something small disturb my peace? If comfort were taken from me tomorrow, would I remain the same? These practices are not about rejecting wealth or comfort. They are about removing their control over the heart. A person who has slept on the ground does not fear losing a bed. A person who has eaten in simplicity does not tremble at an empty table. A person who has stood alone in silence no longer fears being forgotten. To practice poverty is to learn the truth. Nothing essential can be taken from a disciplined soul. When poverty is practiced deliberately, not as punishment but as discipline, it reveals gifts that comfort can never offer. The first reward is freedom from fear. A person who has faced discomfort voluntarily no longer trembles at the thought of hardship. Hunger no longer seems deadly. Silence is no longer unbearable. Simplicity loses its sting. What was once terrifying becomes ordinary, and fear loses its authority. The second reward is gratitude. The one who has eaten plain bread will taste richness in a simple meal. A hard floor makes even a modest bed feel like luxury. A day of silence makes companionship sweeter. Practicing poverty does not make life darker. It makes ordinary life brighter. It sharpens appreciation for what is already present. The third reward is strength of will. To refuse every desire is unnecessary. To obey every desire is slavery. Practicing poverty teaches mastery over cravings. It teaches that one can say no to themselves and still remain whole. A disciplined soul does not collapse in the absence of pleasure. The fourth reward is humility. When a person chooses to live simply, without displaying wealth, without needing recognition, they become free from vanity. They no longer measure their worth by possessions or applause. Their value is found in character, not decoration. The fifth reward is resilience. Fortune may take away homes, titles, coins, and comfort, but it cannot wound a person who has already learned to live with less. Practiced poverty becomes armor, not made of iron, but of acceptance. Such a person carries peace through both abundance and scarcity. Wealth does not intoxicate them. Poverty does not humiliate them. They can enjoy comfort without clinging to it, and endure loss without breaking. This is the greatest reward, to walk through life with open hands, grateful when fortune fills them, calm when it empties them. For the richest person is not the one who owns the most, but the one who needs the least. In earlier ages, hardship was part of living. Cold winters, failed harvests, war, loss, hunger. People did not study resilience. They were forced into it. But now comfort has become normal. Softness is available to anyone who seeks it. And because of this, the mind has forgotten how to endure. Never has the world been more abundant, and never have people felt more anxious. Homes have warmth, yet hearts feel empty. Tables are full, yet minds are restless. There are pillows for the body, yet no rest for the soul. The fear of losing comfort is greater now than ever before. This is why the practice of poverty is not outdated. It is essential. It is a response to a modern illness, dependence, dependence on approval, dependence on money, dependence on entertainment to avoid silence, dependence on possessions to feel important. When a person cannot sit alone without distraction, when they cannot endure a moment of boredom, hunger, or uncertainty, they are not free, no matter how much they own. Practicing poverty teaches something society has forgotten, that a human being is capable of strength without luxury, peace without noise, dignity without wealth. It reconnects the soul with what is natural, air without perfume, food without indulgence, thoughts without constant interruption. This practice also creates compassion. The one who has chosen to live with little learns to see, not with judgment, but with understanding. They no longer look down on those who have less. They no longer look up to those who have more. They look within and measure differently. In a world that constantly says, "You must have more to be happy," this discipline quietly answers, you must need less to be free. So let the modern world chase endless desire if it must. But let the wise person learn this ancient truth. Abundance is not owning much. It is being content with little. One day, everything that is external will be taken. Wealth, beauty, strength, possessions, titles, even the memory of a name. This is the natural order. What is borrowed from the world must one day be returned to it. But there is something that cannot be taken: the character of a disciplined mind. A person who practices poverty while fortune smiles will not fear it when fortune turns away. One who has trained the soul to stand without luxury, without applause, without excess, will not collapse when the world is silent. This is the heart of the teaching: practice loss while you still have things to lose. Practice simplicity while life allows you comfort. Train the mind to accept hunger, cold, rejection, uncertainty, so that none of these become enemies. Do not wait until life strips everything away to discover what truly belongs to you. For the one who has practiced poverty knows, possessions may be lost, but reason remains. Comfort may disappear, but self-control endures. Praise may fade, but virtue does not fade with it. Even life may end, but a life of courage cannot be erased. So live in such a way that nothing is essential except integrity. Let wealth come and go. Let comfort rise and fall. Let others praise or ignore. None of these decide who you are. The only true poverty is dependence. The only true wealth is inner freedom. And the soul that has practiced poverty is the soul that cannot be conquered.